Welcome everyone to the next presentation. We've seen there was a missing red hat on the picture from the Open SSL team gathering. We found it here, live on stage. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you, Roger. So I borrowed the hat back again because I donated it to David because obviously he earned it. So let me start my presentation. And what I'm going to talk about is a special mission where I jumped on like 2 years ago. And the mission, if you choose to accept it, is to take an upstream community project, which is, you can see here, this Microshift project, typically microshift.io. So this is a typical upstream community project, and turn it into an enterprise-supported product. So this is kind of the next step of what we had before lunch in the presentation on how do you get from a closed source proprietary software solution to open source to a community project that we had before lunch. Now this is the step, how kind of the reverse, how do you turn it into a product? And that is what Red Hat does. Obviously, I work for Red Hat. I have the hat, I have the shoes. My name is Daniel. Good afternoon. I'm a product manager at Red Hat, and my job is actually to turn upstream community projects into enterprise-supported products. And that is kind of a friendly reminder of the whole business model of Red Hat. Red Hat is still, besides being bought by IBM and everybody saying, yeah, now you're no longer independent, it's going to get proprietary. No, it's not. We are still a 100% open source company. So everything we do is 100% open source. It's not open core like we have a open source core system and then we add proprietary stuff to make it an enterprise product. That's not the case. It is still 100% open source. It is what we provide and add is support for it, documentation, testing, quality assurance, hardening, and then of course support. I mean, whom do you call if Sunday 4 a.m. in the morning your upgrade of some Linux service did fail and it's a critical banking application or mission critical solution? Whom do you call? You call Red Hat if you have a support contract with us, yeah? Because that is our business model, that we provide the support, the enterprise-grade or long-term security fixes. And that means we need to take open source community projects and turn them into a product. And what I also need to add is typically we do not add proprietary stuff. Typically it's the other way around. We remove stuff or we take certain functions and features of a latest and greatest upstream community project and turn this and do not support it because that's too new, it's not stable enough. We are not supporting that part of the product. So we are rather reducing the functionality in an enterprise-supported product. But still, it's a lot of work. So what does it mean to take such a community project and make it an enterprise-supported product? And turns out it's a long journey. So I'm with Red Hat now for over 8 years, and I transitioned into this role of product management from the sales side of the house to the product management side of the house. And it turns out from this initial decision to productize this upstream community Microshift project, from this initial decision to, let's say, go, yes, we are turning this into a product, to actual general availability, meaning fully supported in production, it was roughly 1.5 years. Fun fact, this decision point on how do we make that decision, which community projects do we either fully productize or include in our products, that is a presentation I'm promising for next year if Roger invites me again. Because that is the whole topic on its own. So Yeah, the journey is typically, there are a couple of steps identified, like the team identified, legal names, I will talk about that later, and then we do the typical steps as alpha, beta. We don't talk with alpha and beta release. For us, it's developer preview, and then technology preview, and then it's general availability. And you notice I'm not really talking in this talk today about what this product actually does, because I'm not allowed to do marketing and sales. But still, at the end, I will show you a little small demo of it, because, hey, it's my product, it's my baby, and I'm proud of it. So I have to show it to you. So, the first step in that journey. Yeah? So this is a travel report. So I brought pictures from alongside the journey. And the first, really first step on this journey is you don't want to be alone. I, as a product manager alone, cannot do something. Yeah? So you need a lot of people. And first of all, you need engineers. Fun fact, those are the contributors and maintainers. In this case, it was easy because this Microshift project was actually initiated and started by our office of the CTO, which at Red Hat is our variant of Siemens Technology T, the T, Siemens Technology Division. That is our office of the CTO. So they invent stuff, they try out stuff, they fail fast, or in this case, they succeeded. They created an open source project, which we decided, yes, we are going to productize it. So it was easy, kind of, okay, we take a couple of people from there, and then we find inside Red Hat some engineers who are willing to contribute and maintain this project. So that's the base. But then you need, for example, people for QE, for quality engineers. Yeah, we need to be testing. Yeah, that's one of the major differences. We do additional testing between the community project and the enterprise supported product, so that we can really guarantee what we claim is a supported configuration and a supported functionality, that this actually works. And you only know that, and you can guarantee that only if you test it. So you need quality engineering. You need docs. You need docs writers. Yeah, I mean, people either love, hate, or ignore documentation, but you have to have documentation, right? Then there's technical marketing manager. There's actually that's a team manager. So these people need to have a team manager. So you have a team manager, you have an architect who is kind of the technical oversight steering committee to make sure that these engineers contribute in a sense that fits into the whole direction. But at the end, it's still a community project, so they could, in theory, do something else. The team lead, program experience engineers and program management. This is kind of the boundary to other Red Hat products. Yeah, so all this has to align and be integrated into the overall program, other products, relationships, and so on. So this is handled here. And then, of course, there's a product manager. Hey, that's me. Yeah. That's the product manager who is kind of planning the roadmap, doing feature prioritization, doing bug prioritization. When do we release which feature? Do inbound ingestion of requests for enhancement, feature requests, customers. We really early start to bring in customers, have early adopters, get their feedback, plan this into a roadmap. And what did I forget? CEE, that is actually our support organization. Because keep in mind, our business model is we provide enterprise support. So at some point in time, somewhere in the night, some phone rings and says, I have a problem with this product. Can you please help me? So those people who pick up the phone, actually the support case, they need to be aware, hey, there is a new product, and they need to learn about it, yeah? Because otherwise you get a one-to-one hit ratio from each support case hits engineering, and you can't develop anymore. So you have to enable and start your support process. So that is in the beginning, in the very early of the beginning, this needs to be assembled. You need to find people, you need to onboard them. If it would be a really upstream community project, we would, for example, try to hire supporters, maintainers, stuff like that. Okay. So much for the team. Now we have a travel party, right? So we are next step in our travel plans is we need to think about how do we actually travel. It's a journey, right? And there are plenty of options, and turns out we need a lot of that. So what I mean with that means of transportation in this case is tooling. So for me as a product manager, it starts with I need to plan my features. Yeah. So and we actually use Jira for this. So I have a Jira project for Microshift here where all the different features are there which need to be prioritized, state managed, put into a sequence, and then of course you need to refine them with the epics below and so on. So, but that needs to be set up, that needs to be configured. Next step, what we need, we have internal page which is called Red Hat Product Pages. This is an internal page. Oh, actually, I did forget to say this. Fun fact, at Red Hat, it's not only open source, but also a lot of this project management is also open. So actually, this is our Jira. I think it's issues.redhat.com. And you can access it. And most of these roadmap features, which are, for example, currently in development, are planned on a roadmap, you can actually see and follow and even comment. Because keep in mind, contributing to open source does not necessarily mean it's source code. You can contribute documentation, you can file bug reports, you can comment on roadmap feature items. All of that is contributing to a project. And we do this also for our products. Not all of them are public, some are for security and compliance reason internal, but most of that is actually public. Product pages. This is, for example, the internal mapping and tracking, which releases we have. We need, for example, there's, of course, software life cycles, so we have limited support for limited amount of periods of time, so you need to be sure which one is in planning, which one is in development, which one is in active maintenance, and which one is running out of support. Yeah? That is, for example, where the support organization looks up, is this product still supported? Yeah? Because support life cycles vary. But also find, for example, the actual status, documents, people, find out who is responsible product manager, who is the responsible QE lead, so that you can quick and easy find this. This is some internal tuning. It's Red Hat internal, but it needs to be set up. You need to find out who's responsible for that, how do I get it, there's processes for that, you need to support tickets, so that takes also time. Next step, we have internally a management system to manage advisories. Because one really, really big added value of the Red Hat subscription is that we manage security fixes, that we guarantee that we can deliver for known CVEs in a timely manner, usually, hopefully, within a day or two. It's not guaranteed, but usually we can get it for critical security issues within a day after disclosure. We provide a fix. And you can imagine that needs to be tracked, especially the backporting. Yeah, so for example, Microshift follows the Kubernetes release cycle. We support it for 2 years. So worst case, we need to backport a security fix for 6 releases. And this is automated. Yeah? So we have a tool for that which keeps track of which uses, which library, what is software bill of material, so that we have automatic tooling to keep us notified, hey, here is stuff you need to backport, or make a conscious decision not to backport. What else do we have? We learned it already in a couple of presentations today. That was about CI, continuous integration. And that is a big, big difference, for example, when we took over the project from the community. It was Office of the CTO, we are innovative, we are fast, testing we do later. Which is a no-go if you go product. Investing lots and lots into your CI, into your test automation is really, really key. We use Prow for that. And here you can see we have lots of periodic jobs where we do testing, rebasing. For example, Microshift is a CNCF certified Kubernetes distribution. And to make sure we don't break this certification, we have an automated CI test case for that to verify on each. I'm not sure which one is this. We have periodic jobs and we have pre-submit jobs that we actually try to test as much as possible on a pre-submit pull request. So the time the developer creates a pull request, then we run as much tests as possible on that developer branch to get more best quality information. Not all of that can we do because it's too complex, it would take too long. So we also have nightly jobs or periodic jobs where we only do this, for example, on a sprintly release, stuff like that. And that this is a really good idea, you can see, for example, on this very specific job from just recently, where you can obviously see there was something broken. And it was really nice that we catched this in CI because it was, really subtle a bug, but CI catched it. So that is a really good thing to do. And during that journey, initially we had nothing, and over this 1.5 years, we invested a lot into that. And we got actually the feedback from one of our early adopters that said, we didn't had any issues in the last 3 months, and they get on a 3-week basis releases. So in like, 4 or 5 releases, they didn't open any bugs, it was just working. And that was for us the feedback, our investment into CI is worth the effort. I was sometimes a little bit skeptical, let's go ahead. We need to get to GA, we need features, not testing. But now I believe, yes, investing into CI is a really good idea. But again, first it needs to be created and set up. Turns out actually at Red Hat we have at least 3 or 4 different ways to do CI. Which tool do we choose? How do we set it up? How do we integrate it? Yada, yada, yada. What next do we have? Support case handling, I mentioned already. So it's a new product, so it needs to be triaged. If somebody opens a support case, how is that happening? Yeah? How does the first line support find out, hey, where do I have to route this? Yeah? This needs to be set up. So it took like I think 8 weeks, 2 meetings a week, to first of all find the necessary people, identify the necessary process, play the process, and then do some corrections on like, hey, it doesn't work. Yeah? It involves early adopter customers like, hey, we can now accept support cases. Do me a favor and open one to find out, okay, this process we designed is broken, which we then correct. That is why you have early adopters, right, to test run this stuff. What else do we have? Oh, fun fact, see here? There's the Siemens logo on there. Because I'm a big fan of CI, but CI is not everything. We still do manual QE. So we do have a test team which does manual testing, test cases. It's partially automated because there are things which are so complicated to do automatically that it's better to do with humans. And then I'm really also a big fan of this. At the end, just do crazy stuff, be creative. Yeah? But that all needs to be tracked. For example, there are regression test cases which need to be documented, tested, verified. And fun fact, we use Polarion from Siemens for that, to track that. Yeah? So while our software is open source, not all the tools are open source. I mean, you have seen Jira also. Jira is also not open source. So yeah. But that is, here you can see different test cases, so that also needs to be set up. Okay, so let's continue the journey. At some point in time, if you do a journey, you need to cross a border and you need paperwork. So in this case, it's about the dog, where it needs vaccination, stuff like this. For us, this means we are an American company. And as an American company, at the end, we deliver and we ship software, because at the end, you download something from access.redhat.com, which means export control. Yay, fun topic. Nobody told me when I signed up for the product management job that it's my job to get this done. And I learned a lot about this. It's actually scary stuff. So there's tons of registration. It turns out for a new product, you have to fill out a form. It's a ERF, export authorization request form, where you have to write down all the product, what is this about, and especially like this encryption section here, you have to list all the encryption ciphers which can be used or are to be used embedded into this. I mean, it's an American process. Obviously, they are looking for which ciphers can the NSA handle and which not. Is there something in which is there or not? It took me quite a while to get this filled out. You collect all the information from engineering and so on, and then you submit it. And then at the end, you get this classification back. The scary part of that is actually because this was a new product initially, and in the initial new version, the product manager has to sign it personally. And since then, I somehow feel like I'm with one foot in jail in America. I'm not sure if I can dare to travel to the United States anymore because, I mean, obviously, being really 100% sure of that, of course, I did my very best to do so, but you never know, right? So it feels a little bit scary. But anyway, I got it, and of course, I'm employed, so at the end, I'm not personally hafbar, liable, thanks. So, yeah. Okay, that was one really interesting part. Then there is another, and sorry, I couldn't find a nice meme to get into for this travel journey report, so I had to get this meme about naming. Yeah? The child needs a name if you create a product. And we know naming is one of the hard problems in computer science. So it turns out there's brainstorming, everybody has ideas, so you get a list of all nearly of possible product names. But then it turns out, initially I was, yeah, that's one of my fun duties as a product manager, that I can decide my product name. Actually, no, I can't. It's brand and legal. So you compile a shortlist out of that. You give a ranking. That is what I can do. Turns out if you go with the shortlist, so we compiled a shortlist out of, I think, 8 names of this and submitted it to Red Hat brand and legal for verifications. Legal does make sense that you do not violate any others' rights and so on. Branding, yeah, someone has to fit. But it turns out if you put a shortlist of like 5 to 6 names, you get 1 back. And that's it. Yeah, so, and the actual name is Red Hat Device Edge. That is the name that turned out and survived this process. There's another fun story with that. Officially at Red Hat, there are no acronyms. And still everybody says RHEL for Red Hat Enterprise Linux, right? So in this whole process, nobody checks for acronyms. So I did, which is with RHDE, short term is the acronym, ready. If you pronounce it in an American style, it gets ready. Yeah, okay, that works nice. We had some kind of product name, I think it's not even on the list, because I think I removed it from the list for that reason, which was something with RHPE. And having a product which is called Red Hat P, no. So ready is very much nice. Yeah, but that's a fun fact. Yeah, process does not control this, so I can control it, and that's my power as product manager. That was fun. How are we doing on time? Time has stopped. Nice. I have unlimited time. 20 minutes. Okay, cool. So, next step. So you're happily away, running away. Yeah? So Southeast Asia, you have these scooter things where you drive along and then somebody says, stop, police control, license and registration, please. That was actually, I think, early last year. So we were already in developer preview. So the product was kind of in developer preview. We had a documentation page, we had a download page, product was accessible. And then there was a big surprise. Actually, somebody in our Red Hat product security team woke up and said, hey, that is a new product. They have to be compliant with our secure software development lifecycle best practices. We have standards for that, for open source software. Funny, right? This is kind of the beginning of the shortlist. The shortlist, so they sent us, here's the shortlist of things you have to do. So the shortlist is 2 pages long and has over 40 of these items. Lots with funny acronyms like SAST, DAST, SAR, SBOM, and in the beginning I was like, what? I don't understand any words. And by the way, we are like 6 months away from going to GA. How on earth do I get into this? How do I get this done? Turns out not everything is mandatory for getting to GA. Yeah? So you can still go to GA with, for example, the penetration testing. We completed that, I think, just 6 or 8 weeks ago. But, fun fact, yes, we do penetration testing of our products, which, for example, upstream community tests usually, projects usually don't do. We do that with products, not on every release, but on a regular basis. We do penetration testing, attacking our own software to find vulnerabilities. That is kind of a black box, white box testing, find open ports, unnecessary risks, stuff like that. And another thing, which is, for example, which was mandatory to go to production was the security architecture review, meaning that an independent security architecture from our product security team does a full white box analysis of here's the architecture of the product, here's the configuration, and provide feedback on what is security-wise okay or not okay. And on the initial review, I think we came out like with 4 or 5 findings. Like, this is not okay, this is not okay. And we negotiated which one do we need to fix before GA and which one we can do later. Yeah? So this is then a process, but it's still there. Threat modeling, static application security testing, that was actually quite easy because we got this integrated in from our CI. So the CI system we utilize is actually managed by a Red Hat CI team. They provide this static application security testing where you simply look into the source code for vulnerabilities, bad practices, stuff like that. We get this for free. But also I mentioned earlier, for example, the SBOM, the software bill of material. That is also one of the must-have points before to go to GA because this whole CVE vulnerability process we have is attached on that. So that is what you need to do. And for each of these items, there is a complex definition of done, which means, for example, okay, in this tool you have this entry and stuff like this, or it is you have a report, you have findings, stuff like this, but you have this for each, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? So it goes another page of things you have to do. Yeah? But I really, in the beginning, I was totally frustrated. Like it felt like they're throwing a curveball at me and my product because I'm so close to getting to GA and now this. Couldn't you have said this like half a year earlier and then please explain what you want from me? I don't understand you. You're not speaking my language with all these abbreviations. Turns out we figured it out and we talked about it. We worked it out. But yeah, typically customers don't see this as effort, what we do as Red Hat between community and enterprise. Yeah? Of course, it's not the guarantee that there's no vulnerability in there, but it is an additional layer of protection. And that is what you need to do nowadays. Yeah? Have layered security, secure software development lifecycle best practices. So, that was kind of one of the last curveballs. So we are kind of close to GA, yeah, flying in, landing back home after our long journey. So yes, we are getting close to landing, or actually we are on the ground, and then it is like running across the finishing line. So this was actually the final moment was we had our engineering candidates, we had the release candidates. On October the 31st, I think it was, or November the 1st, I can't remember. It was a public holiday. It was November the 1st, which is a public holiday in Germany. It was like, yes, we are GA, right? So the bits and bytes are published, which again is a complex process because there's a content delivery network to distribute the RPMs on this. And still you can stumble on the finishing line and make a really bad nose plant. So this is one of the lessons learned as a product manager. Seeing is believing, don't trust anybody, try it yourself. So I got all the emails like, we are live, Slack goes berserk, like everybody's happy, celebrating, cheers, yay, finally, big milestone achieved, we are GA. And then I said, guys, I have here a Microshift virtual machine and I'm trying to update from the latest release candidate to the GA version. And turns out it's not working. Dependency hell. What happened here is actually we have a package, we have a release management system where this is kind of the interface to the content delivery network. Which is actually quite a nice system. So you put, for example, like 5 to 6 RPM, or in this case it was, you put 5 RPM packages at the ramp, of the warehouse, and then the warehouse distributes this across the globe. And actually, the tool checks that all endpoints of the content delivery network serve that RPM, that it has really the replication through the content delivery network has worked, stuff like this. And there was a small, tiny mistake. On this packaging manifest for that tool, it was 4 packages, but we have 5. So 1 package was not listed. It was on the ramp, it was delivered, it was approved by QA. QA has to sign this off. Yes, this can go out. But it was not on the manifest. And actually the tool said, hey, I have 4 on my list, 5 are on the ramp, what should I do? Okay, yellow warning alert, manifest difference, and it shipped the 4 on the list. Because it could have been that somebody shipped this 5th packet intentionally as just a test, does it go onto this? So the tooling was fine. It was just that this yellow warning alert was on the 2nd tab of that page, and nobody saw it. So, and me as a product manager, nobody was believing me. I was like, guys, it's not working. Yeah, wait, the content delivery network hasn't distributed the package yet. Guys, it tells me it has checked, it has replicated everything. Yeah, so it turns out to get this actually fixed took us a day. We had to wait for the next release cycle, so we were 1 day late behind our initial plan. But then we made it, and I was like, yes, okay, what can go wrong goes wrong. So, but we learned this now, so yay. We made it across the finishing line, and we arrived at a really nice, beautiful destination. And yeah, I think I have a couple of minutes left to actually show you this stuff. So in case, it is actually a CNCF certified Kubernetes distribution targeting small form factor devices. Yeah? Because there's more and more demand to run Kubernetes even on a small edge device, something like 2 cores, 2 gigabytes of RAM. And that is what this Red Hat Device Edge as a product or Microshift, the community project, is about. And to show you this, I hope I can log in. And it is really as easy as you DNF install Microshift. And if this works as planned, you can see Microshift itself is just around 50 megabytes nowadays. And it needs a couple of dependencies, obviously, a container runtime, which we have seen, also networking stuff. Here's, for example, is runc as a container runtime. We use OVNK here as software-defined network. So in total, it has an install size of like 500 megabytes on disk for the RPM packages, which is not the whole truth. It will pull additional container images it needs. So the overall binary size is, last time I checked, around 1 gigabyte or so. On disk. So you can easily, quickly install this. That depends now a little bit on how quick and fast my virtual machine here is running. This is one way, by the way. Of course, we also have something like image mode, which everybody who does edge computing gets the idea. Yeah, doing it image-based is a good idea. We can do this also. So if this now installs, I can start it, and we would see a running Kubernetes distribution. There we go, and now it's installing. And I suggest while we wait for this to install, we take the time and I answer some questions, if you like.
So we got a question from the chat from Peter. What if the project community would not like the idea of Red Hat building product out of it? Is it part of this journey to get the community on board, or that's part of project selection ahead of it?
Typically, one of the criteria to be able to use something as a product, we need to have some influence at the community, which usually means we contribute. So we typically don't simply consume something and do not contribute back. So we contribute, we try to be maintainers if possible, but I'm also for a different product, a product manager, where we are really just contributors, and we have to sometimes or frequently we have to accept the fact that we would like to fix something or change something, and the maintainers don't accept that. Yeah, then that is for example for me as a product manager, when I promise a customer, yes, we are going to deliver this feature, I hardly ever do this because I cannot, because I first need to get the buy-in from the community. I mean, if in the long term, if it really comes hard, the community, I mean, it's open source, yeah, they cannot really prevent it. Yeah? But we wouldn't be playing nice with the community, so it's unlikely that we would do that. So that is simple answer. Okay, next question, please. While I now have to start it, so let me quickly, while we wait for the question. Installation is completed, I'm now starting it, right? So that we get it running. Yes?
So it's me again, the chat. From Konstantin. How do you get customers? Do you have salespeople or customers come automatically?
Both. Typically what we do is demand driven. So it's not like, yeah, let's productize it because we speculate customers want to have it. What we typically do is we see demand, customers are asking for it, and that is actually one of the the situations when we decide yes, we are going to productize it. We need a critical mass of customers to say, yes, we want this. And then we start to productize it. So typically, if you look into it, they typically become reference customers also. And then also, of course, we put this to our salespeople. Yeah? We have salespeople who start to sell it, push it to the market. We do market announcements. We promote the product, of course. And that creates additional demand. So it's kind of both of everything. Let me quickly check. So installation is now started. So now we should be able to see it running. I have to copy the kubeconfig file first. Also get pods. Let's see what containers are running. And here you can see it starting. So these are the containers starting. They're still being downloaded and pulled. But that's basically it. It's like, how many is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 containers running. So yeah, that is why it runs in 2 cores, 2 gigabytes of RAM. That's the minimum distribution. Do we have time for another question? I don't want to skip the... Yeah, yes, we have.
How do you select which open source software are worth being converted? Because I see some overlapping, for example, here with
K3S, microcage. Yes, exactly.
So how do you decide this one is meaningful?
As I said, that is part of a future presentation. If I'm allowed to come back, I do it next year. That's really complicated. Yeah, there is no simple answer. But typically, for example, seeing what is already there is involved. How lively is the product? How lively is the community? How mature is it? Does it fit into our portfolio? Stuff like that. Do we have influence? Do we have already maintainers? Can we buy maintainers? Yeah? Sometimes we are being asked, hey, there is a maintainer who has been fired by his original company. Can we hire him? Yeah? And it fits in. Actually, we are using this product, so this project. So yes, we hire him. Something like that. Yeah, it depends.